A $2 powder reflects 98.1% of sunlight and drops surface temperature 19 degrees below the surrounding air. Purdue University proved it. The Guinness Book certified it. And a $200 billion industry made sure you never learned its name, while homeowners associations in 17 states made it effectively illegal to use. This is not a theory. This is not a life hack from a random forum. This is peer-reviewed physics that threatens the entire business model of modern climate control. Your air conditioner costs $5,000 to install and $150 a month to run. This powder costs $14 a bag and uses zero electricity forever. But here is what makes this story dangerous. Homeowners associations in 17 states have passed regulations that effectively ban white roofs. They require dark shingles, earth tones, architectural consistency. They have made it illegal for you to stop absorbing heat. And when you absorb heat, you need to buy the solution they are selling. Before we expose how they buried this, we need to see where this science was proven beyond any possible denial. And that takes us to a laboratory in California in 1973. The Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory ran a test that should have changed construction forever. They took ordinary limestone powder, calcium carbonate, the same white chalk your kids use on sidewalks. They mixed it with water. They painted it on a flat roof in the California sun. Within hours, the surface temperature of that roof dropped by 40 degrees. Not compared to black, compared to standard white paint. 40 degrees cooler than the commercial coating designed specifically to reflect heat. The internal temperature of the building dropped 8 degrees. In the middle of a California summer, the air conditioning never turned on. Not once. The entire cooling load of that structure was handled by a bucket of chalk mixed with water. The data was unambiguous. A cheap, naturally occurring mineral outperformed every commercial cooling product on the market by a margin that should have ended the conversation. The researchers published their findings. They expected a revolution. They expected builders and architects to abandon expensive HVAC systems and return to the simplest physics in the world. White reflects, black absorbs. A child understands this. But the revolution never came. Because someone in a boardroom did the math. A bag of calcium carbonate costs $3. A central air conditioning system costs $5,000. One purchase lasts decades. The other requires monthly payments, annual maintenance, filter replacements, refrigerant refills, and eventual full system replacement every 15 years. The average American homeowner will spend over $40,000 on cooling over a 30-year mortgage. The cooling industry does not sell comfort. It sells a subscription you cannot cancel. The industry did not suppress this technology because it failed. They stopped talking about it because it made their entire product category unnecessary. Now, here is where most people assume this is a modern discovery, some breakthrough from a government lab that corporations scrambled to bury. But the truth is far stranger. That laboratory in 1973 did not discover anything. They rediscovered something that entire civilizations had known for 3,000 years. Go back to 1500 BC, the island of Crete, the Minoan civilization, the most advanced culture in the Mediterranean at the time. They built elaborate palaces with running water, flush toilets, and multi-story construction. But they had no air conditioning. They had no electricity. They had no fans. And yet, the internal temperature of their buildings held steady at 72 degrees Fahrenheit when the outside air hit 95. Archaeologists at Knossos found lime plaster built up in 15 or 20 layers over decades. The Minoans did not treat whitewashing as construction. They treated it as annual maintenance. The technique was so universal it became invisible, like asking why people breathed air. The secret was visible from miles away. Every wall, every roof, every surface of every structure was coated in blinding white lime plaster. Pure calcium oxide burned from local limestone and mixed with water. The physics are almost embarrassingly simple. White surfaces reflect solar radiation. Reflected radiation never converts to heat. The building stays cool not because something is removing heat, but because heat was never absorbed in the first place. Imagine standing on the dock of a Minoan harbor in midsummer. The sun is brutal. The air shimmers with heat rising off the stone quay. But the buildings behind you are cool to the touch. Not because of any machine, not because of any complex system, because of white powder mixed with water and applied with a brush. Brush, the same powder, the same technique that someone will try to fine you for using in 2026. The Minoans were not alone. Stand on the cliffs of Santorini today. Every building is white. Not because of tourism, because the locals have applied lime wash every spring for 4,000 years. Walk through the villages of Andalusia in southern Spain. White. The Moors brought the technique from North Africa and it never left. The Medinas of Morocco, where temperatures regularly exceed 100 degrees. White. The hill towns of southern Italy, where summer heat bakes the landscape brown. White. 4,000 years of Mediterranean architecture arrived at the same conclusion independently. Not because they shared information, because physics does not change based on geography. Every civilization with brutal summers and access to limestone figured out the exact same solution. The technique survived the fall of Rome. It survived the Dark Ages. It survived colonialism and industrialization. It only began disappearing in the 20th century, and that disappearance was not an accident. So if the ancient world knew this, and a 1973 laboratory proved it with modern instruments, and the physics are simple enough for a child to understand, why did we stop using it? The answer has a name, a date, and a patent number. Willis Carrier, 1902, the first modern air conditioning system. Carrier did not invent air conditioning because lime wash stopped working. He invented it because lime wash could not be monetized. You buy a bag of powder once, you apply it yourself. You never need to call a technician. You never receive a monthly bill. You never replace expensive components. The transaction is over. Air conditioning created something beautiful for manufacturers: dependency. The upfront cost is just the beginning. The average American household spends $150 a month on cooling during summer. That is $1,800 a year. Over a 20-year system lifespan, that is $36,000 in electricity alone, not counting the $5,000 purchase price, the maintenance contracts, the repairs, or the eventual replacement. A bag of lime costs $14. $36,000 versus $14. The industry did not need to ban lime wash. They needed to make you forget it existed. And they succeeded so thoroughly that most Americans have never heard of cool roof whitewashing as a serious cooling strategy. They replaced cultural memory with advertising. They replaced 3,000 years of proven technique with a machine you cannot repair yourself. They made you dependent by making you forget you ever had a choice. But something happened recently that broke their containment. In 2020, a materials science professor at Purdue University named Shulin Ruan published a paper that the cooling industry is still trying to bury. His team developed a white coating that reflects 98.1% of incoming solar radiation. Not 80% like commercial cool roof paints, not 85% like premium products, 98.1%. But the reflection was not even the remarkable part. Ruan's coating exhibited something that sounds like it violates physics. The coated surface did not just stay cooler than uncoated surfaces, it dropped below the ambient air temperature. In direct sunlight, the surface was up to 8 degrees cooler than the air. At night, it dropped 19 degrees below ambient. Let me make sure you understand what that means. You could paint this on your roof on a 100-degree day, and the roof would be in the low 90s. You could stand outside in 90-degree air at midnight, and the roof would be in the 70s. The surface is colder than the environment surrounding it. Without electricity, without refrigerant, without moving parts. The mechanism is called radiative cooling. The coating does not just reflect incoming sunlight. It emits infrared radiation at a specific wavelength that passes directly through the atmosphere and escapes into the cold of outer space. The roof is literally radiating heat into the vacuum of space. Ruan calculated that 1,000 square feet of this coating generates 10 kilowatts of cooling power. That is more than a standard central air conditioning unit produces. Except the air conditioner costs $5,000 and runs up your electric bill. The coating costs maybe $200 in materials and uses no power at all. The Guinness Book of World Records certified it as the whitest paint ever created. CNN covered it. Scientific American wrote about it. For a brief moment, it seemed like the world might actually change. And then the industry activated its contingency plan. You would think that a discovery this significant would trigger a construction revolution. You would think builders would start specifying white roofs as standard practice. You would think building codes would update to require reflective surfaces in hot climates. None of that happened. And the reason reveals how deeply the cooling industry has embedded itself into the regulatory infrastructure of American housing. Start with homeowners associations. These private governing bodies control an estimated 53 million American homes. In at least 17 states, HOA regulations effectively prohibit the kind of highly reflective white roofs that could eliminate air conditioning dependency. The rules do not say white roofs are banned. They say roofs must conform to neighborhood aesthetic standards. They say shingles must be earth tones or architectural blends. They say exterior colors must be approved by a design review committee. In Arizona, one of the hottest states in the country, multiple HOAs in the Phoenix metro area specifically prohibit white or light-colored roofs. Homeowners in neighborhoods where summer temperatures regularly hit 115 degrees are contractually required to install heat-absorbing dark shingles. The math is inescapable. Dark roofs absorb heat. Heat enters the home. The air conditioner runs. The power company sends a bill. The HVAC company sells maintenance contracts. Everyone in the chain gets paid except the homeowner, who just wanted to stay cool. One Arizona homeowner documented his fight with his HOA over a light gray roof, not even white, just light gray. The HOA deemed it non-conforming. They threatened daily fines. They threatened liens on his property. He spent 14 months in legal disputes before ultimately replacing his roof with a darker color that met community standards. His cooling costs went up $300 that summer. The net effect is identical across all these regulations. You are prohibited from making your roof white. You are required to absorb heat. You are guaranteed to need air conditioning. Ask yourself who benefits from that arrangement. The roofing material industry generates $30 billion annually. They sell dark shingles that absorb solar radiation. The air conditioning industry generates $170 billion annually. They sell the solution to the problem the dark shingles create. The utility companies generate billions more from the electricity to run those air conditioners. A homeowner who paints their roof white is a customer lost to all three industries simultaneously. They do not need expensive roofing materials with thermal management features. They do not need a $5,000 HVAC system. They do not need monthly electricity payments or maintenance contracts. A bucket of white powder solves the entire chain of problems. And an entire chain of industries loses their revenue stream. Now you might be thinking this is all theoretical. Nice physics, nice history, but does it actually work in a real house, in a real climate, with real summer heat? Let me tell you about a man in Texas. He owned a single-story home with a standard dark asphalt shingle roof. The summer before his experiment, his attic temperature regularly hit 140 degrees. The heat load on his air conditioning system was so severe that his compressor ran almost continuously from June through September. His summer electricity bills averaged $300 a month. He had read about lime wash somewhere online. He was skeptical. The whole thing sounded too simple to work. But his electricity bill was brutal enough that he figured $28 was worth the experiment. He bought 2 bags of hydrated lime from a hardware store. Total cost? $28. He mixed it with water at a ratio of 1 part lime to 2 parts water. He rolled it onto his roof in 2 coats over a single weekend. The first coat went on chalky and uneven. He was convinced he had wasted his money. The second coat smoothed things out. The roof looked pale and slightly dusty, nothing like the glossy shingles his neighbors had. He almost regretted the whole project. Then the heat came. The following week, he climbed into his attic with a thermometer. 97 degrees. Not 140, 97. A 43-degree drop. He checked it again the next day. 94. He checked it a week later during a heat wave. 102. His neighbors' attics were hitting 150. His topped out at 102. His air conditioner ran less than half as often. His electricity bill fell by $100 that month. Over the full summer, he calculated savings of $1,200 from a $28 investment and one afternoon of work. His neighbors noticed his white roof. His HOA sent him a violation notice within 10 days. They cited aesthetic nonconformity. They demanded he restore the roof to its original color within 30 days or face escalating fines. That is the reality of the system we live in. A man saves $1,200 and gets fined for it because he made a choice that removed him from the dependency chain. He fought the HOA for 3 months. He eventually negotiated a compromise where he could keep the white coating on the rear slope of his roof, which was not visible from the street, as long as he restored the front slope to dark shingles. He lost half his cooling savings. The HOA called it a reasonable accommodation. But here is what the HOA cannot control. They cannot stop you from painting internal attic surfaces. A white painted attic interior reflects heat back toward the roof instead of radiating it into your living space. They cannot stop you from coating a flat roof that is not visible from the street. They cannot stop you from painting a shed, a garage, or an outbuilding. They cannot stop you from applying lime wash to a patio cover, a pergola, or a storage building. They cannot stop you from knowing the truth. So let me give you exactly what you need. Go to any hardware store and buy a 25 or 50-pound bag of Type S hydrated lime. This is critical. Do not buy quicklime, which is calcium oxide. Quicklime is extremely caustic, reacts violently with water, and can cause severe burns. Do not buy agricultural lime, which is ground limestone. Agricultural lime is different chemistry and will not perform the same way. Look specifically for the words hydrated lime on the label. The cost will be between $7 and $14, depending on the size and location. Mix 1 part lime powder with 2 parts water by volume. Stir until you have a thin, milky consistency. It should pour easily but coat a surface without running off. The mixture will be alkaline, so wear gloves and eye protection during preparation and application. Apply with a thick nap paint roller or a masonry brush. A standard interior paint roller will work, but a masonry brush gives better penetration into porous surfaces. Cover the entire surface in one even coat. Work in sections. Do not let the leading edge dry before you finish the next section, or you will get visible lines. Let it dry overnight. Apply a second coat the following day. 2 coats provide better coverage and longer durability than 1 thick coat. The finish will look slightly chalky. It will not have the glossy sheen of commercial paint. This is normal. The chalky finish is actually the active reflective surface. Some people thin the mixture further and apply 3 coats for an even more uniform appearance. Here is what not to do. Do not apply lime wash over existing paint without testing adhesion first. Lime wash bonds to porous surfaces but can peel from glossy or sealed surfaces. Do not apply during rain or when rain is expected within 24 hours. Do not apply in freezing temperatures. Do not apply over surfaces that are too hot to touch. The mixture will dry too fast and not bond properly. The coating will reflect more solar radiation than any commercial product on the market, and it will cost you less than a large pizza. Lime wash is not permanent. Rain and weather will gradually erode it over 1 to 2 years depending on your climate. You will need to reapply, but reapplication costs $14 and takes an afternoon. Compare that to the ongoing cost of air conditioning. Some people add a small amount of salt to the mixture, about 1 cup per 5-gallon batch. The salt increases durability slightly. Others add a small amount of white Portland cement for the same reason. These additives are optional and not necessary for basic performance. Now, I need to acknowledge something. The HOA issue is real. If you live in a controlled community with strict exterior regulations, you may face fines or mandatory removal. I am not telling you to break your covenants. I am telling you to understand what those covenants are actually protecting. They are not protecting property values. White buildings are standard throughout the Mediterranean, and property values there are astronomical. Santorini is one of the most expensive real estate markets in Greece, and every building is white. They are not protecting aesthetics. White is the single most common building color in human history. They are protecting a revenue model. Every time you look at a restriction that prevents you from implementing a cheap, effective solution, ask yourself who profits from your inability to solve the problem yourself. The paint industry profits from selling you expensive, cool roof coatings that perform worse than lime and cost 10 times more. The roofing industry profits from selling you premium shingles with reflective granules that still absorb more heat than white lime. The HVAC industry profits from selling you the machine to undo the heat absorption that cheaper methods would have prevented. The utility companies profit from the electricity bill to run that machine. Everyone profits except you. This knowledge did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because it worked too well. The Minoans knew it, the Greeks knew it, the Romans knew it, the Moors knew it, the Spanish knew it, your great-great-grandparents probably knew it. And a $200 billion industry has spent the last century making sure you forgot. One bag of lime, $14. An afternoon of your time and the power to cut your cooling costs by 30, 40, 50% or more. No subscription, no maintenance contract, no technician, no monthly bill. The physics has not changed in 3,000 years. The only thing that changed is who profits from your ignorance. If this reached you, it can reach someone else, who is staring at a $300 electricity bill, wondering why life has to be this expensive. Share it, subscribe, and stay for the next one. Because the next vault we open contains a survival technique so effective that multiple governments have classified it as a threat to public infrastructure. A technique that turns something you throw away every week into an off-grid energy source that runs without fuel, without maintenance, and without permission. They do not want you to know about that one either.